Gentlemen, lords and ladies, Jacob Runner speaking, and a warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. Well, I should have started by saying a windy welcome, because right as I'm walking down this street, it seems to be that the wind has picked up. And judging by the amount of possible cumulonimbus clouds, I should be getting out of here sometime soon. But yeah, you can't really tell because the sky always kind of looks like this when I film these. But yeah, instead of doing this in the evening, I'm doing this in the early morning. It's like 8:30 something. Yeah, a little bit of a difference. I just had to come to a road that has cars on it now, and I've been on a silent one for some time. So I'm going to cross over, keep talking, make sure I look both ways, and there we go. There you go. I've made Afnal proud. Ah well. Anyway, I'll get to Afnal in a second because I've got some stuff to talk about regarding her. Anyway, before any of that, there's been a little bit of an update as far as what I should really be covering in these Walking Wednesdays. Because sometime last week basically, the tutor that is in charge of our directorial classes said to us that we shouldn't really be discussing the rehearsal procedures of things outside of the rehearsal room. So what happens in the rehearsal stays in the rehearsal room. Granted, he's the same person who then asked us what happened during our Friday session with the actors, but that was in a rehearsal room, so I guess that counts. But yeah, that kind of put me in a difficult position because I was thinking, well, I don't think he's seen Walking Wednesday, but the principle still sort of applies, I think. So, until further notice, what directorial lessons? There's nothing going on in those. Definitely not one of the most interesting parts of the week that I wanted to talk about, but okay, yes. It's also a bit difficult because my friend Lee wanted to mention, who's in the directorial classes, he said to me, oh, I better get mentioned in Walking Wednesday this week, and but yeah, I can't really talk about too much that's going on, so there's not really much I can really say to him about him. So yeah, no reference, I guess. Wait, I just did one. Does that count? I'm gonna say that counts. Hi, Lee. Anyway, that was that. Let's get to the actual parts I can talk about in the week. So, again, going to Thursday's directorials, Friday also directorials, Saturday, Sunday, I was in a bunch of calls doing things and getting some Music Girl lines delivered. And also, of course, on Sunday actually, this is where I can talk about some stuff, I had a family reunion. Why am I going towards the traffic? What is wrong with me? Okay, yeah, family reunion basically. So yeah, my aunt and uncle live a few trains away in insert name of place here, and my brother and I travelled from insert name of other place here to get there. There's a bit of an issue regarding one of the trains because they seem to be early. I thought trains operated in the same way that buses would, in the sense that if they were early they had to wait at the station before the time and then carry on. That was, well, I guess they were all like, that's the principle. But no, our train actually left the station early. We arrived a minute before we were supposed to be there, granted. It was a bit tight. However, that should not have been an issue. So, yeah, we had a bit of a delay that was going on. I finished a whole manga before that was over. I underestimated my reading speed once again. But yeah, it doesn't really matter. Point is, we got there, we had some lunch. My cousin, her husband, their daughter, they were there as well. Oh, and my other cousin as well. He was there for a bit, then he kind of retreated. Anyway, nice to see them all. And then afterwards, I actually went to see No Time to Die. And this is where I would normally go on a tangent of what I thought of the movie in question, and discuss a bunch of the details about it and why I think it might be one of the best Bond films that I've seen recently or that's come out recently, for different reasons. Like, not because of what people might think, but just because of, particularly I like how they've actually just evolved the character over the years. They've given more of a through line to the movies, making them less standalone, so they have more options to explore, which is all paid off here. It's not perfect, don't get me wrong, because it was Daniel Craig's last film. They had to wrap up a bunch of things all at once, and that made it a little bit of a mess as to what's going on. The villain achieved his main motivation like about a third of the way in, and then just started going into strange Bond territory of actually what was it? Oh yeah, just that whole like chemical weapon thing where he was gonna infect a bunch of people. I won't spoil it because that's the thing. I said I was not going to tangent because my brother said that I basically gushed about the film and about the Bond franchise overall quite a lot. And I was talking pretty much all the way back, which, to be fair, is what I tend to try and restrain myself from doing in when I go watch movies. It's like when I watched later Battle Angel, for example. I made that whole video afterwards about my thoughts, and yeah, that's kind of because if I don't do one, I end up doing the other. But yeah, I was quite restrained there, especially because it seemed like the same cousin and husband who took me there that was my birthday, they didn't seem to enjoy it as much as I did. So I was like, okay, well, I won't like, ruin the mood too much, but I will definitely say I appreciated the birthday present, which I did, and I still do, because that's the first one I actually purchased on YouTube Premium, and yeah, I still watch it sometimes to this day. And there's more cars. Okay, I can't really avoid this now. I think this man is about to pull out. So, oh no, he's leaving. Okay, it's fine. All right. Right. So yeah. Anyway, movies and stuff, all that aside. It seems like I'm running out of time again, much like I did for my presentation, which was a thing that happened a couple of days later. I could talk about like creative writing and such, but first, because that was on Monday. So Monday had creative writing, and I basically, we were going through treatments, which is a thing that you write. In case people don't know, a treatment is something that you write like as an accompanying document when you pitch a script. Usually, I think it's usually a script. I'm sure I'm maybe doing it for other things as well. We've only done them for screenplays so far. Anyway, industry standard thing, and we're just going over the script, not the script, the treatment, different thing, which outlines the entire story of what was going on. And I do mean, in this case, the entire story. I won't talk about it too much because, again, that's a thing for within the class, honestly. But I will say that it left a lot to be desired and a lot to be less to be desired of, because there was lots of detail put into the wrong places, including like explanations of intent and internal thoughts versus research to do with a heavy subject. In a sense, reminiscent of a gacha script. I mean, there's no gacha treatment, so I'm just saying gacha script, gacha video, because no one has to pitch, because it's an internet thing. Although I do wonder, what would it be like if someone were to use Gacha Club as a product to actually make a movie from, or at least in theaters? Like, licensing that alone would be a nightmare, because you could imagine that. You can imagine that Luname, the company, will probably have different policies regarding mainstream films, if anything, if they've even considered that as an option, versus posting on the internet. Especially since Gacha Club is a free game, so I'm sure that the license will have other details regarding that. And if not, then maybe we should get on that, because there's some people who really have reached the level in editing of Gacha at this point that could warrant them a position on like Major Motion Pictures or something. Like, if you've got a whole animation studio based around Gacha, you could actually do a decent movie. Dare I say, a great one. Anyway, that's ideas for someone else, some other time, or maybe me some other time. Who even knows what the world will be like in some time. My friend Leisha just asked me what I thought YouTube might look like in 5 years. And you never really know. Because on one hand I saw MatPat's video on how the viral trends nowadays are like YouTube about adulting, because the YouTube generation is really growing up. But at the same time, there's lots of kids YouTube videos and kids channels that are still on the rise, and those people will be growing up, and if they decide to stay on YouTube, then that means that we'll get a new rise of teens that have been lost right now mostly to places like TikTok. So actually I'm not really sure. It could look very different, or it could look very much the same, just with slightly different policies. So yeah, I wasn't very helpful as a person to ask that question, basically. I didn't really give much detail. But yeah, that was during a conversation that we had yesterday, actually, when we went to have a coffee, or in my case hot chocolate, and also we happened to find a place that did this Spanish cuisine. So it was very much a nostalgia trip. So yeah, we got some churros and several. Well, I got churros, and then we got several different tapas that we both had. Well, she had prawns and like that. Doesn't really matter. But yeah, definitely a blast from the past. Comida española. Que nostalgia. Anyway, the only thing that made it more Spanish for me and more nostalgic would have been if they had tortilla de patatas. But you know, you can't have everything in this world, can you? I'm sure I'll find somewhere else where they can do that. But yeah. Anyway, that was. I'm skipping ahead. So yeah, creative writing did that. Wasn't very satisfying. Tuesday was Tuesday was one directorial, but we're going to ignore that. We're going to say that it was also presentation day. And guess what? We actually got to present something this time. And I don't just mean performing Desiderata, which, granted, was a little bit fun, but at the same time, it's not as fun when you have to close your eyes when someone else is reading the poem to you, versus actually getting to engage with them, especially because this week was all about... sorry, I'm trying to look to see if there's any like openings I can get rid of all this traffic from. That way. Okay. Yeah, so it's this week was all about the different methods of delivery and like gauging different people's personalities, looking for things to prepare for in terms of like personality tests that you can do on your audience essentially before you go there, and sometimes you won't even know. So yeah, some things like that. Meanwhile, I was still using my knowledge of the Carmine Gallo book that we got for we got required to read during the summer. And one of the things they say in their presentations is a good way to engage with everyone is to tell a story. So when we went from the lecture to the seminar, I thought, let's go ahead and open up this thing we asked to prepare for today about a speech that we like, and open up by telling a story. Let's establish a personal connection with people and work through it that way. Yeah, let's use this 1 minute presentation in order to, and tell a story before you get to actually discussing the speech itself, was my idiotic thought at the time. So you can imagine, I was up there, people said, okay, well, who's going to go first? I'm of course at the edge of my seat trying to go, okay, does anyone else say this? Because my method in class, basically, is normally, because in the past, I used to, raise my hand for everything, go up the first, and gradually, as we did stuff like P for C, for example, which stands for Philosophy for Children, I've learned that if that happens, then it's always just the same people that stand up, and you don't get the chance to really, the chance for like other people who are less confident to explore for themselves and try the same things, because you'll always end up with the same volunteers. So gradually, I trained myself to stop doing that. It's like last year on Zoom, for example, I I always had my hand on the unmute button, and then I would see if anyone else answered a question, if I knew the answer, obviously. If I didn't, I just wouldn't do anything. But if I knew the answer, I'd see if anyone else answered first, or anyone else wanted to offer a possible response. And if no one did anything, then I would unmute. So I did the same thing. So I was there, edge of my seat, trying to look around, make sure, see if there's anyone there. People knew, because of a previous seminar, that I was really confident in presentations. So they all knew that I wanted to go up. And then eventually they were like, okay, well, let's go first. And then the tutor called on me. And then I went up there. I had prepared this. So I was going to talk about King George VI, his speech to the nation in September 3rd, 1939. You know, the one from the movie, the very end. The one that my outro actually on YouTube is based off. That same music, Beethoven Symphony 7, Movement 2, I think is the way to say that title. Did I just go in a circle? I went in a circle. Okay, I'm up this way. But yeah, so what I was to say, very personal connection. Watched that film 10 years ago. I was 11 years old. You know, it was very much like, wow, this is all incredible. So I had the chance to say all of that to people, and it sucked. It was absolutely horrific. One of the worst presentations I've ever done in my entire life, because I had the story prepared. I had them all hooked. I was looking at some of them. Granted, I got pointed up with my eye contact because I wasn't looking at certain parts of the crowd, the ones who were like right in front of me. So I got to work on that. But I was there, engaging with people, looking at them, trying to like put weight on my voice. December 31st, 2011 or 2010. I was 10 years old and I was looking at and we were staying out for the first time, about to watch this film. It's midnight, waiting for BBC One, and I was less mumbly than this right now because I'm trying to establish. Because once again, I might run out of time. Because here I am. Because yeah, that's what happened. I was there, telling the story, and then I was like, okay, getting me all in the mood. This movie called The King's Speech came on. I didn't know what was going on, and then I thought maybe I might have doubts, but suddenly it was like, oh, that's Bellatrix Lestrange, and then I was in, and the speech itself. At the end, King George VI, the recently crowned King George VI, addressing the nation for the first time, ran out of time, and I didn't even get to talk about the speech impediment that he had, you know, the fact that it was a real speech and there was actual comparisons going on. I listened to the actual thing, none of that, because I wasted all of that time on that story. And I hate that I did that because it just means that they were there listening to me ramble on for ages, talking mostly about a movie, before I said it was based on a true story and an actual true speech, and suddenly it was over. And then they all start clapping, so I'm like, no, guys, don't clap for that. That was awful, that was horrible. Because it really was. But yeah, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not regretful that I went, actually I'm so regretful I went first, because if I went first I would have known that, yeah, I just like cut myself off during that time. Because yeah, some people were really concise, they were really good at this thing. As it went along, you saw more control that everyone had of their speeches, and or of their speeches about speeches, whatever you might call them. Some of us like had notes, some of us read from laptops, some of us just read from, or just went and improvised. Like me. Boy, I wish I hadn't done that now. But yeah, people seemed to actually like the story aspect at least, and they liked my commitment to it. I think they all realized that if I had more time, I could have talked more about it, because I could. For years, people would ask me back when in secondary school, what's my favorite film? I would say, The King's Speech. Because it was an easy answer, I didn't have to think about it too much. That's like what that might actually be. But honestly, it's up there. Even if it's not my actual favorite, it's up there, genuinely. I watched it a few times since and it's still just really powerful, especially that ending. But yeah, I didn't get to. The passion, I was so close just speaking as something I was passionate about. But ultimately, in the end, I was let down by the one thing that we can never control: time. Whew! Anyway, that was that. So overall, it was a fun week. It has been a fun week. And if I could talk to you about the directorial stuff and talk about how much stuff I did with Shakespeare and how I was able to really, how people that might not have been so confident at first, and how I asked them about if I were to do, if they were, how confident they might be at the beginning and end, they were all different, and the levels of comfortability that they had, how much context they had and everything, and be able to actually awaken that because of based on this thing that I did at LIPA 3 years ago, and actually and help them with the exact same speech. If I was able to tell you about any of that, which of course I'm not, don't think that I would tell you for a second what happened there, because nothing happened, of course, that I would be able to show you like how fun the week actually really was. But chances are, I think I got the picture across. I had some successes, I had some failures, some utter failures. But even those were fun, so you know what? I'm happy with this. There's some other stuff that, you know, like on calls and whatever, that I don't want to get into because it's personal. We need to really reconcile something to do with like something that just happened yesterday, and really work through that, make sure everyone's okay. But yeah, that was like a little bit of a downer ending to what was otherwise very satisfactory. And yeah, I'm now gonna get back and get myself some breakfast, I think. So yeah, please leave a like or dislike because your opinion matters. I subscribe, I've done so already, and it's given me a lot to think about as well, because I asked at the end of the presentation that if we're going to do stuff about our actual ideas, apparently that's what tutorials are for. What good is that? We're presenting to a massive audience. Maybe I need to do something where I talk about uniting people that might want to practice their presentations in front of other people and get feedback in the exact same way we did this week. I wonder if I've given that much thought yet. I wonder if that's the sort of Dumbledore's Army-esque kind of thing that I could pitch to some people and see if they would find benefit.